Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. So there's this rich guy, and he goes away for a whole month, but he calls his butler James every day to check in and see how everything's going. So on the first day, he's gone. He calls James. He said, James, how's everything going? And the butler says, sir, your dog is dead. And the guy says, what? What? My precious, favorite, beloved dog is dead, and you just blurt it out like that with no feeling, with no empathy, not easing me into it at all? You should have done a much better job giving me that kind of news. And James says, well, sir, how would you recommend that I would have handled it? And he said, well, first you could have told me the dog is stuck up on the roof, but he'll be okay. And then the next day I would call and you'd say that the dog was on the roof, and I was trying to get the dog off the roof. He fell and broke his leg, and I had to take him to the vet, and the vet said he'll be fine, but he needs a couple of days to stay at the vet's. He said, are you getting this? Are you understanding what? He says, yes, I'm getting it, sir. And he said, on the last day I could have called and you could have said, the doctor didn't anticipate some internal injuries, and your beloved dog passed peacefully in the morning at 2 a.m. That would have been a compassionate and caring way to ease me into it. And he said, okay, sir, I got it. And he said, great. So, how's grandmother doing? And he says, sir, your grandmother is stuck on the roof. And so, all right. Today we're talking about joy, and not sure if that was the best joy joke to lead into, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how much joy are you experiencing in your life? Or how joyful is your life? How joyful are you in your work? How joyful are you in your relationships? How joyful are you just every day in all and the things that you do? How many people ever had a time here where you felt like you lost your joy? Anybody ever felt like you lost your joy? How many people ever looked around your life and things are good, there was nothing really wrong, but you still weren't feeling that level of joy you wanted to feel? Anybody have that? Every single one of us wants to feel joy, wants to live in a greater level of joy, and the truth is we are meant to. Jesus said these words. He said, I have taught you all these things so that my joy might be in you and that your joy may be complete. And so a question for us to ask is, why aren't we living with this much joy? Why aren't we experiencing that level of joy that we all want to experience? A part of the reason, one of them is, I think, in our culture, we mix up joy and happiness a lot. And we tend to be, and I'll give you a little definition a little later, but the focus of being happy, having to be happy, wanting to be happy, and pursuing happiness, as good as it sounds and seems and a nice idea, it apparently is not as helpful as we think. There's a professor who's done some studies. His name is Adam Grant, and he said this: there is reason to believe that the quest for happiness might be a recipe for misery. That the more we chase and pursue this thing called happiness, he said, the least likely we are to have it. The more we chase it, the further it seems to get away. Now, that's an interesting thing, and I think part of the reason is our definition of happiness, I don't think is realistic or healthy or accurate. And it's not written down what happy is, but here's my definition of what I think all of our definitions of happiness is. Happiness is everything always going my way. Is that not it? For real? That's happy. I'm happy when everything goes my way. And a spin-off to that one is I'd be happy if everyone acted the way I think they should act. Wouldn't it? If my kids are listening, everybody would behave, it'd be a better world for everyone. And then the second one, that one's the biggie. The second one is happiness means an easy life. No problems, no obstacles, no challenges. Everything goes smooth and easy all the time. Now think about it. How often does life always go your way and everything's smooth? So can you see it's a recipe for setting ourselves up for failure and pain? That's why happiness this thing is so fleeting because it depends on those outer things for always happening, where joy is an inward feeling. It is an inward feeling of connecting to something greater. You know, there is a joy down in my soul. It is in our hearts. It is in us. It is in our very nature. When babies are born, they call them bundles of joy. It is in us. It is innately in us, a deep joy that bubbles up that has nothing to do with the conditions and environment, but has to do with connecting with our true nature. You know, the Dalai Lama nails it when he says this. When we discover true joy, or we could call it a complete joy, it does not save us from the inevitable hardships and heartbreaks of life. We cry more easily, we laugh more easily. Perhaps it's because we're more alive. When we feel more joy, we feel more alive. And as we discover more joy, we can face suffering in ways that ennoble us and not embitter us. We can go through hardships without becoming hard, and we can experience heartbreak without feeling broken. That to me, joy is connecting with the source of life in a way that helps us live life more fully, to live life more open-heartedly, to live life at a much deeper level. You know, the Buddhists have a thing that says, a joyful mind is our natural state, and it is also something we need to cultivate and develop as a skill. And so while that it is in our nature, there are many things that can stop us from it, and we have to cultivate a mindset of joy. We have to cultivate and connect with that joy on a daily basis. And so the question is, how do we develop a complete joy? How do we develop a deeper joy and make a truly joyful noise in all the ways that we express and experience life? And the first one is to reconnect with a true sense of joy. You know, joy isn't a matter of outer conditions happening. It is really an inner connection to the truth of who we are, an inner connection to that spirit within us. It says the kingdom of God is within you. And it's about connecting with that inner kingdom. In Psalm 16, it says, in thy presence, God, is the fullness of joy. In thy presence, there is the fullness of joy. In Psalm 100, it says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Enter his presence with gladness. Come into his presence singing songs of joyfulness. You know, and so the important thing is that the source is of joy is God, but the way to connect with that source is through prayer. You know, it is be turning to God in prayer. You know, it says that prayer is more valuable than gold and silver. Why? Because it helps us connect to that fountain of joy and wisdom and peace. It opens us up to that. You know, but sometimes, you know, we don't use prayer or think it's as joyful. Sometimes we think prayer is onerous. Sometimes we treat prayer like it's eating vegetables, going to the dentist, or doing taxes. I mean, you know what I mean? We know we've got to do it, but I mean, don't you think it should be a joyful thing to connect with the very source of joy and life that makes everything possible? That it should be a joyful and wonderful experience for us all. To connect with the source of joy should be a source of joy. It should be a joyful experience. And so, and the other thing, for it to be a joyful experience, the second thing for us that we need to do is to make it a priority. And for something to be a priority, guess what? It has to have value. We have to know its value and benefits to us. When I was in North Carolina, I used to do a Wednesday night service when I first became a minister, and there was a guy, his name was Chip. He would always come to all the services, and he didn't miss one. And I once said to him, I said, man, I'm really impressed you come to every Wednesday night service. And he looked me in the eye and he said, Richard, I would never deny myself that blessing. And I thought that was really sweet. But the fact is that when we don't pray, we are denying ourselves blessings. We are denying ourselves a deeper and fuller experience of life. We are denying ourselves a richer and a greater expanded awareness of the truth of life and how to live it more joyously. How many people here, I'm not going to ask you if you value prayer because I know you do, but how many people would admit that while you value prayer, you don't pray as much or meditate as much as you know as you could? You know, and so we are denying ourselves the blessing of a deeper, richer joy and a deeper connection to spirit and the truth of who we are by not engaging consistently in a level of prayer. that it says seek ye first, to make it a priority in your life. And the thing is, it needs to come to a place, again, like it's better than gold and silver. It is so valuable. There's a wonderful parable that we've all heard many times, and it is the parable. It's two of them are the same: parable of the pearl of great price, or parable of the hidden treasure. And here's what it says: the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, and someone found and hid it, and then in their joy goes and sells all that they have and buys that field. And what it means is that that hidden treasure is a secret to the fullness of life, which is prayer. It is the secret to connecting spiritually. And when it says that you will sell everything, that you can buy this and have this, it is to sell things like spending less time watching TV, spending less time putzing around, and actually devoting some time into a greater level of quietness and meditation and prayer. That literally, for us to experience more joyfulness, we need to connect with the source of joy, but make prayer a joyful priority. It should be a joyful, something we should be rushing to go and do, is to quiet our mind and joyfully connect with that spirit. See, we can talk about prayer all we want. We can think about prayer all we want, but until we actually do it in the quietness of our heart, we will not reap and experience the benefits of pure joy, of true joy, and that complete joy that Jesus talked about. The second thing is that to experience more joy in life, we need to stop resisting life. You know, back to number one reason, we think everything should go our way. Every time something doesn't go our way, we whine, we complain, we moan, we argue that it shouldn't happen, it should have never happened, we hate that it happened. We resist and fight against life all the time. We argue against why all this stuff happens. We invest so much time. Nothing sucks the life out of joy than resisting and complaining and rejecting things that happen. Somebody once said, if you fight against life, if you argue against life, you're going to lose. But only 100% of the time. So, you know, we argue against things all the time. We're always fighting against stuff. We're always resisting. And we resist difficult conversations. We resist going after our dream because there's too much work involved. We resist having to stretch too far. It's amazing how much we resist. How many people ever had a change happen in your life that you really didn't like and you resisted and had a hard time getting over it? Anybody? And then how many times ever got your heart broken and you resisted opening your heart to love again? Anybody? We resist way more than we think. And that is one of the single greatest things that reduces the level of joy that we experience in our lives. So I like watching HGTV. I like all those home makeover shows. I just love it. And 2 years ago, I did my kitchen. I just did the master bedroom and bathroom. The thing about renovations, they teach me a lot of renovations. Because what the ultimate goal is to do something to make your life better. More beautiful, more convenient, more comfortable. That's why we renovate, our bathroom or whatever it is, to make it better, more functional. But the thing is, to make it better, you got to break down walls. You got to knock things down. Things have to get dusty and messy for it to happen. And the other one is that no matter how much you plan, you're going to run into some issue. You're going to find rot, or you're going to find termites, or there's going to be a supporting beam that you can't move the wall the way you thought you should. There's always going to be something where you have to adapt and adjust to the plan that you had because it isn't going to work out. There are things you're going to have to deal with. And then the third one is no matter how prepared you're going to forget something. You're going to have to run to Home Depot a number of times. And so my point is, in a renovation, to improve and better our lives, there are things that are going to happen. Things need to break down. Things you aren't going to be prepared for. We have to adapt and adjust. And guess what? Imagine if there's resistance to all those steps. If we resisted, guess what? It would be harder. It would be less fun. It would be less efficient. We'd probably make poor decisions if we were always resisting. And maybe we wouldn't even do anything. Nothing would get done. And if life, I wrote a talk one called Life is a Fixer-Upper. That there's always renovations to be done in the house of life. And if you want to do it, guess what? There's going to be things to knock down. It's going to get messy. All those things are going to happen. Unexpected things where you're going to have to adapt and adjust and change. And if we resist, it'll make it much more painful and much more difficult and much more of a struggle. You know, it's important for us to not be too rigid in our lives. There's always something to adapt to something adjust, to something to accept. You know, somebody once said, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape." And so, And so I was talking to a dear friend of mine, and she said to me, we were praying the other day, my prayer partner, we were chatting, and she said this line. She said, you know, it is only the people in life who are willing to adapt, adjust, and accept that can go through changes and find peace quicker, find a greater joy of a new version of life, and progress to something better. That the more we resist, the more we hold ourselves back from joy and moving forward and discovering new possibilities and a new life. You know, we resist all kinds of different things. You know, one of the things that I'm having some resistance with is, so the project's all done, and the bathroom looks phenomenal. It really, the floor tile there, I turned it into a wet room. It really looks, the tile, the vanities, and there are 2 framed mirrors on each side. And then it's really, the whole thing is so gorgeous. For me, it's gorgeous. And there's going to be a barn door for the bathroom door. But there's a little chip on the frame of one of the mirrors. And I walk in there every day, and all I see is a chip on the mirror. And I get steamed and annoyed about it. And there's a whole bathroom that's really good, but all I can see is that chip and how annoyed I am about the chip. How many people ever get stuck on and stewed on a little thing? When your life, it's like this whole bathroom is fabulous, and all I can do is see a little chip on the thing. And so what that is a resistance to opening my heart to how beautiful and great life is. There's so much good in life and so much good in our lives that little chip, Spirit must have put it there so that I could learn. And I'm going to leave it there now. And so that look at the areas of what are you resisting in your life? What are you having a hard time adapting to or adjusting or accepting? Because I guarantee you, the moment there's acceptance, the moment the resistance drops, that we really open ourselves to really find our joy and to really live more fully and more richly and more deeply. Found this fabulous quote. Here's what it says. It's funny how we outgrow what we once thought we couldn't live without. And then how we fall in love with what we didn't even know we wanted or didn't even expect. Life keeps leading us on journeys and awakenings that we would have never gone on if it were only up to us. And so the point is that life is always trying to teach us. Life is always trying to lead us to a more complete joy, to open our hearts and our minds to something beyond of everything going our way, to something greater and a greater plan. You know, but we need to stop resisting it. If life's showing it to us, maybe paying attention and opening our heart to it is the best and the wisest things to do. In the book of James, the Apostle Paul said, "My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, count it all joy. You must let your faith be tested so that you will persevere, and let perseverance finish its work so that you will know that you are whole, complete, and lacking in nothing." Or sometimes it says that you are mature, complete, and lacking in nothing. And so what this is saying, count it all joy, all the ways that life is trying to show you these things. Be willing to be flexible, to adapt and adjust and go with it, because it is really shaping us to be more whole, complete, and lacking in nothing. To be more mature, more spiritually mature, and to know the fullness of who we came here to be. To know the fullness of God, to know the fullness of life. So the second way for us experiencing complete joy is to stop resisting. And then the final one is to rejoice. In the Psalms it says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." You know, the word rejoice gets repeated a lot. It says, rejoice in the Lord always, always rejoice. It says that let the people rejoice, let the nations rejoice, let the heavens rejoice, let the earth rejoice. One of my favorite lines is, let us rejoice in those who rejoice. That's a lot of rejoicing. And rejoicing means to express joy. It means to celebrate. And so we are called to rejoice every day. Rejoice in life, to celebrate life, to express joy in everything that we do, in our smiles, our faces, our interactions, you know, in our relationships, in our work, to express that joy in all that we do, and to make a joyful noise to life. And so here are 3 ways I think we do that. Number 1 is to be fully engaged in whatever it is you're doing and whatever you have in your life. Make the best of what you have and who you are and where you are right now. So often we spend time comparing ourselves and judging what we have, that we aren't fully invested and don't put our heart and our spirit into actually who we are and all that we're doing. And so it's important not to judge those things. It is important to give fully and of our best of ourselves, you know, and in whatever that might be. And so Henry David Thoreau said a wonderful line, and he said this. It's a poem from Walden Pond, and he said this. I went to the woods because I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I couldn't learn what it had to teach, and to not discover when I came to die that I had not lived. And so, to me, we cheat ourselves of living when we don't fully invest ourselves in making the best of what we have. And to me, whether you're fully investing yourself in the laundry or doing your taxes or your prayer life or your interaction with your child or the work that you're doing, all of it, we need to invest, all of us, in what we do. Not thinking of the past or the future or comparing or judging, but being fully present. There's a wonderful thing, Parable of the Talents. I mention a lot because it's so brilliant. But one got 5, one got 3, got 10. But it didn't matter how much they got. It's what they did with it. It is what they did with it that was the most important thing. And it even says that when you do well with what you have, you will share more in the Master's joy. You will share more in joy when you are enjoying what you have. The more we enjoy what we have, the more joy we will experience. I have an affirmation that I say from time to time, and it's, I live my life in joy, and I enjoy living my life. I live my life in joy, and I enjoy living my life. Let's say it together. I live my life in joy, and I enjoy living my life. Take a deep breath into that. And let's say it one more time, half voice. I live my life in joy, and I enjoy living my life. The second way to rejoice is try something new. I think it's important to always try something new. We get stuck in ways of thinking and patterns. And sometimes learning something new, particularly something fun that we like, really expands and opens us to ideas and perspectives and new things that are just really cool. And so I'm not really very musical at all. In fact, I love music. I'm just not musical. I tried the piano, was bad. Guitar, horrible. And so I was at a party last year, and a guy busted out a harmonica. And I was like, he was smoking good. And he took it right out of his pocket, and boom. So 6 weeks ago, I started taking harmonica lessons. And I stink. And but my teacher is so impressed with how joyful and enthusiastic I am every day. And I said to him, hey, Robert, and he's kind of well-known blues harmonica guy around town. And I said, hey, Robert, on December the 1st at the church, I'm going to do a talk called The Spirituality of the Harmonica. And I'm going to end by playing a little piece, for the congregation. And he said, that's great, but maybe you shouldn't tell them who your teacher is quite yet. So, the thing is, I really am having a lot of fun with it. And you're learning so much perspectives and hearing different things. And I love hearing how much joy he has in doing it. We do it by Skype at 8:30 every Wednesday morning. And it has brought so much joy just to learn something new. So what's something new you would enjoy learning? What is something you've always thought of doing that you haven't done? Taking a class or maybe a dance class, maybe yoga. What is it that would be fun and just something new just for you that would be enjoyable? You know, it's easy to kind of fall into our comfort zones and get very cocoony in our lives, and that can be fun for a while, but to stretch out and particularly learn and do something fun and cool would be just awesome. And the final one is, one of the most joyful noises in the world is to laugh. To be able to laugh and giggle and smile and just be silly with our friends. I mean, go to comedy clubs, whatever we do, just to be able to laugh at ourselves and to laugh at life. You know, someone the other day gave me a book of funny facts by David Letterman. And so I'm going to share some of those with you. For people who drink coffee, these are little-known facts. Studies show that half and half is actually closer to 60-40. Okay. I thought it was funny. Contrary to conventional wisdom, surgeons have actually shown that it is the second and third cut that is actually the deepest. Look, some of these will hit you on the drive home, but I guarantee you they're good. The Last Supper, did you know the Last Supper was actually more of a brunch? Okay. Notwithstanding what most people think is the oldest profession, I'm not going to say the word, that historians believe that the oldest profession was actually landscaping. Come on, I thought that was fantastic. Okay. It's getting hot in here, man. How about this one? Do you know by law that doctors cannot use tongue depressors to depress any other part of the body? Okay. Why was Van Gogh such a good friend? He was always willing to lend an ear. Okay, here's the last one. Why did the whale cross the ocean? To get to the other tide. Okay, okay. I need to get to the other tide of those stupid jokes. Yes, I will accept mercy applause. Thank you very much. You know, the thing about it is life isn't easy. You know, sometimes life is painful. There are challenges and there are problems and there are difficulties, but life is also beautiful. And it is incredible, and it is precious and wonderful. And the question is, how do we blend the handling of those two things together to experience the joyfulness of living and to truly open ourselves and live more fully? Sometimes it behooves us to pause and ask ourselves, am I living as fully as I can live? And what role does joy play in my life currently? And what role would I like joy to play as I continue to live this day and the rest of my days? And the way I believe is to reconnect with the source of joy by making prayer a joyful priority. You know, to stop resisting life and start adapting, adjusting, and paying attention to what life is trying to show us. And third is to rejoice in life by being fully engaged in what we do, trying new things and taking time to laugh, to play, to be silly, and just have some fun. Jesus said he came that we may have life and have it more abundantly, and he came that his joy may be in us and that we would learn to live more fully to experience a complete joy. God bless you all. All right.